Thank you, Mr. President. And colleagues, thank you for this debate. It's, I think, one of our finer moments as a Senate the past couple of years. And Senator White, you always bring a tear to my eye when you speak on this issue. I wanted to perhaps have the last word. We'll see if I get my wish. But I hadn't necessarily planned on speaking after you. Colleagues, yesterday I stacked on a desk behind me a stack of volumes of the Colorado Revised Statutes to illustrate in a very graphic way the number of laws that we're talking about that we as a legislature have enacted over the time that Colorado has been a state that confer various legal protections, legal benefits, legal rights, and legal responsibilities upon fellow citizens based upon their marital status. Those laws are many. The probate code, first and foremost as an example, the family law code, the children's code, but I think I showed you and spoke to all of the things that are at stake in this bill. And I wanted a stack of law books behind me to make that graphic illustration. This morning, or this afternoon rather, we now have a stack of postcards that have been sent in, and I know I have a stack of these in my office as well. And I know this is an issue in which there is not unanimity of opinion. And yet, I don't care how tall this stack of postcards grows, because in my mind, it is outweighed by this one book that I'm going to set right here. That's the Colorado Constitution and the United States Constitutions. Like many of you colleagues who have spoken before, I too feel that I was called to serve in this body, and I was called here to serve for the reasons that Senator White just spoke about, which is to ensure liberty and justice for all. And that the time I spend on the floor of this Senate, I hope that people will look back and say he did work for the causes of liberty and justice for people throughout our state. I came to the Senate not with a theological background, and I certainly was not elected to this body to debate Scripture. I think we're supposed to be debating laws. I am not a theologian. I may be a little bit of a drama queen, but I am not a theologian. That's why yesterday I chose to lift a passage from a work of Shakespeare during my closing remarks. And Senator Mitchell, I'm very pleased to know that one of the other things we have in common is apparently a fondness for Shakespeare, or at least a familiarity with his works. And you were quite right. The theme of The Merchant of Venice is about revenge and the destruction that it works. And I chose not to complete that famous speech where Shylock invokes his vengeance or threatens his vengeance, because that is not the point I was trying to make. And I know you think that this law will be turned into a club to force conformity and suppress dissent. And colleagues, I certainly hope that's not true, because I readily embrace the right of dissent and believe that it has a proper place in our society. I chose to quote that speech because it's one of the most passionate ways I know in which one of the great writers in our language chose to take a person who had been marginalized, vilified, looked down upon, looked at as though he were of a lesser class, and that person cried out passionately for the recognition of his humanity. And that's what I did yesterday. That was my intent. That's why I didn't finish the speech. That's why I left it off where it was. I wanted to be recognized for my humanity. And yes, there are issues at stake in this bill that are about recognition or affirmation or an acknowledgement that each and every person in our state is entitled to equal dignity, because that's what this bill is about for me. And so I didn't come prepared today to quote Scripture, but I will, in its rebuttal, quote from the Colorado Constitution and the United States Constitution, because for all the scriptural commandments, I think the commandments that are important to us as we perform our duties in this Senate are those that are found in our state constitution. And first among those in my mind, when we're talking about Senate Bill 2, is the commandment that's found in the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution that says no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. In the Colorado Constitution, there's something almost as eloquent, although our Colorado Constitution has been amended a few too many times and often lacks some of the eloquence and simplicity of our federal Constitution. But in Article 2, you will find Section 3 of the Colorado Constitution. All persons have certain natural, essential, and inalienable rights, among which may be reckoned the right of enjoying and defending their lives and liberties, of acquiring, possessing, and protecting property, and of seeking and obtaining their safety and happiness. I believe respect for this founding principle of the state of Colorado is a commandment for this legislature. And I would hope that as we consider this bill, we will uphold the values that are in these founding documents for our state and our nation that suggest that every person is entitled to equal rights and equal dignity. And that's what Senate Bill 2 tries to accomplish, and that's why I would urge you to vote in favor of it.